Welcome to Books in the Freezer, a podcast dedicated to the deliciously disturbing world of horror fiction. I'm your host, Stephanie, and today I am joined by author Matt Serafini to talk about his latest novel, Feeders, and social media horror. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Stephanie. How are you today?
I'm good this morning. How are you?
I'm
Morning,
good. I'm good.
afternoon. What time is it?
It's like 1, so we're
Yeah,
we're in the we're it still could still be considered morning.
it's been a morning. We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been a day.
You're tired. It's kid stuff. It just makes you tired all the time. There's no
Oh,
getting
it
around.
It drains your life force. But would you mind telling our audience, our listeners, a little bit about feeders?
I would love to. Feeders is a horror novel about a insidious social media app called Monolife that rewards only the worst behavior in people. And what's funny is as I was kind of soliciting blurbs for the book, and I would pitch this to other authors and colleagues, I would say, "Would you mind?" And they would go, "What's the book about?" I go, "Oh, it's this social media app that rewards bad behavior." And every single one of them would say, "Isn't that all social media all the time?" So it's like I take your point, but the stuff in this is way worse than that. um,
Yeah.
and basically, we follow this one young lady, Kylie, who's a wannabe influencer on kind of a dark, twisted journey as she kind of gets sucked into this underworld of influencing where only bad things are rewarded. That's kind of the high level pitch, I suppose.
This was a ton of fun. I have such
Oh,
a soft spot for social media horror, and it's just, I mean, so prescient. There's so many angles that it's gonna hit, and yeah,
yeah,
like all the authors that you reached out to blurb, yeah, the fact that algorithms in real life do push forward the content that's going to elicit the worst response out of people. So
right.
that's what ends up getting pushed out. That is what ends up getting rewarded. And I think dealing with a generation that is being raised in a world where social media has always existed is wild. Cause like, what is your history with social media? Like,
I mean, it's my history with it is that it seemed like a good idea way back in the day. And the idea of like, oh, I can go on and just kind of mess around and stay connected to people.
eh,
Um, and and then as it became something to talk about in terms of writing, it was like, oh, well, now I can promote myself. Um, and that was sort of what I thought at the time. And now it's kind of like the word I think of mostly is exhausted.
yeah.
It's just frankly, it's exhausting for a multitude of reasons. Do you feel that way?
Sometimes, yes. At this point, I'm mostly just on my podcast Instagram. I don't even really go on my personal one that I used to keep in touch with friends and family.
Right.
It's just draining. But yeah, I was graduating high school right about the time that Facebook opened up to kind of everyone.
Yeah.
So I remember that being a very exciting thing. Like, oh, post high school, I can still keep track of everyone. We can all still stay connected despite, us spreading out and going to college different places. And that has been that has unfortunately turned into a curse. I'm like I was like, I miss the days when I could respect acquaintances and their stupid not know their dumb opinions on things.
Yeah, there is this kind of mindset of like, I guess we don't need to know everybody's thoughts on everything, and ignorance was kind of bliss in that way. And it's interesting because when things started, it wasn't necessarily like that. Like people weren't compelled as much, at least what I saw, to kind of like weigh in on everything. And it's just kind of
No.
become,
Do you
this.
remember I'm sorry.
No, 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 no. I
I
want to
was
hear
gonna
what I want to hear what
I was
you have
gonna
to
say,
say.
like, do you remember just the vibes of early Facebook?
Right.
Like, it would say your name and you would say "is." You would say, like, "Stephanie
Mhm.
is thinking about drinking a smoothie today."
Yes.
Those were the vibes. That's
Yep.
what people were putting on out that's what people were putting out there. They were
Yep.
checking in on Foursquare, like, "Matt just checked into the arcade on Foursquare." That's
Yep.
what was happening.
Yeah. And it was like, "Oh, this is nice," and boy, that's a long way away, that's
Oh, yeah.
pretty far from where we got to.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I say exhausted because number one, all that stuff that we're talking about is exhausting. And then just, personally, there's the idea of like as a writer, I'm exhausted. Like it's like I you follow other writers and nobody's wrong, but it's like it's a lot of like, hey, here's my promotion, here's my promotion, here's my promotion, 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 this way and that way, like me and other people. And it just starts to feel like I don't I don't need this much advertising, and it just kind of starts to feel like like, what am I doing here? Like, what am I doing with my time? And so there's that aspect too of just kind of like as a writer feeling that pressure to promote and then seeing everybody else working that same kind of angle. It's just tiring. It just kind of runs you down. So, the way I look at things now, I'm just kind of like, I am a little sick of all of it.
And that's understandable. I feel like it is a hustle. I see, when big box stores make uh big annual book announcements, like all the authors I follow rushing to Canva to make infographics with their novel. I'm like, man, you are always hustling. It is
Yeah.
working 24/7 to get this out there.
Yeah, the Canva stuff, like, it's just
Yeah.
it never ends, and it'll drive you crazy if you let it.
Mhm.
Um, and, with all the social media, I don't mean to be like, and I keep saying this every time I do an interview about this book because I do wanna be clear, like, it's not a moral panic. I'm not here to say like everybody's gonna get offline. Like it's not. It would be better if we all greatly reduced our intake, of course. But I mean, I've had good things happen. I've had met people. I've gotten opportunities and things. So it's not like it's all doom and gloom. But there is a dark side, and I think one of the things that has made the book a little more prescient, as you said, is that we all see the dark side now. Like there isn't anybody that doesn't see it. You know what I mean? And that's an aspect of the story that sadly is more relevant than when I wrote it. Is that we're all kind of aware of like what's going on to a certain degree, and there's different platforms where there's I think different issues, but it's just not. It's kind of worn us all out or tired us all out.
I had a question about Kylie.
Yeah,
So, in the book, Kylie is a Katy cat. I'm actually not sure what the fandom name is. I think it's the Katy
I think
Cats. A
it's
big
Katie
Katy
Katz. Yeah,
Perry. Yeah,
yeah.
a big Katy Perry fan.
Yeah.
And in the book, Kylie is in her friend's shadow. Her best friend is this kind of established influencer, and Kylie just kind of always feels like second best. Like she
Yep.
can't quite get there. And was the Katy Perry choice part of that? Or is that do you have a connection to Katy Perry? Like, where did the
So
Katy Perry of it all come in?
this is a cool question that hasn't come up yet. Well, I do. I guess like the short answer is I do like Katy Perry. I like I like pop music. I've always have.
Yeah.
And so there's a couple reasons for the Katy. Katy in the story has kind of a connection to Kylie, and I won't get into that because I think that there is a degree of like what Katy Perry means to Kylie is in the story. Why I kind of chose Katy Perry for the story is I wanted somebody who had made a who really did kind of come to prominence around the time that social media started. And I
Mhm.
I remember like kind of looking at MySpace at the tail end and seeing Katy Perry everywhere on MySpace, and then hopping over to Facebook, and it felt like people were always sharing Katy Perry stuff. And this goes back almost 20 years. Um, but the reason why she's chosen isn't necessarily because of any type of like, oh, Matt still thinks she is this super cutting edge hit with all the kids. It's like, no, no, no. I wanted somebody who was kind of um, there at social media's inception and is still here. And because for me, like Kylie has grown up where Kylie has grown up in a world where there's always been social media, right? And so Katy
Mhm.
Perry has always been a part of that. And you know, at one point, Katy Perry, I think she was at one point like the most followed celebrity on Twitter. I think like way back in the day, it was like Katy Perry was the first to like 90 million followers or something
Wow.
like that. This is the
Yeah.
stupid stuff that my brain remembers. Um, but so it just seemed like for that reason, it seemed like an interesting celebrity to hang an obsession on. And then I knew the story was going to get kind of ridiculous and absurd. And I thought Katy Perry has always sort of embraced a certain tongue in cheek campiness that I thought would be kind of fun to
Yeah.
marry into the story where Kylie kind of starts, you know, having these breaks with reality in a certain way. And she's thinking of like, you know, these random weird things that have been in Katy Perry videos or whatever. And I just thought like it felt like it would all work in some really strange way. And so that was the kind of like meta reason for Katie being in the story. And like I said, Kylie has her own sort of connection to her that's a little different. But that's a great question. I'm glad that came up.
I just thought that was such a fun addition, and I think it also allowed for, discussion into kind of another part of social media culture that people have been talking about more, which is parasocial relationships that
Hmm.
people have with celebrities. So
Yep.
her having this Katy Perry obsession, I thought was a fun way to get into that too.
It was fun to write. I liked because, like I said, I mean, it comes from a place like I do. I do like her like pop music. I'm not like
Yeah.
number one Katy fan or anything like that, but I do like it. And it was fun to sort of like really have to take a deep dive into Katy Perry and like really because I wanted her. You know, Kylie goes on these sort of digressions from time to time, thinking about Katy Perry, and I was like, I got to know that stuff. And so it really, I had to listen deeper to all of her records than I ever had, and really kind of like form opinions and understandings on like the meanings of them and everything. So it was quite a process actually.
I also liked that, I mean, for story reasons, I feel like it had to be this way, that it couldn't be an established social media platform. It had to
Right.
be like a fictional one. But I think because of that, it also will help it age better. Cause I feel like, I mean, as long as we've been on social media, we've seen so many evolutions
Yeah.
of the different vibes. We were just talking about what the vibe used to be on Facebook, what the vibe used to be on Instagram. So what was that like creating a social media app for the story?
It was like taking all the worst elements of things that I had seen on all the social medias and like being like, what if they all were under one umbrella? What if,
Mhm.
you know, all that stuff? And yeah, it was that was kind of the in a lot of ways that was like a fun but uncomfortable part was having to think about okay, you know, there's some really nasty stuff, you know, what if this, what if that, and kind of just building this app from the ground up in terms of functionality and how it rewards the behavior and what you get and all that. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of a not too subtle, just sort of, you know, I don't think there's any ambiguity as to like you know where I stand on all that stuff you know by the end of the book but you know it was just kind of like yeah what's all the stuff that really freaks me out, let's put that in there.
It was a wild read. I mean, the lengths that people are willing to go, which I do love in stories that especially revolve around influencers, and the lengths people will go for fame and the
Right,
promise of a, hashtag influencer lifestyle
right.
was crazy.
Well I'm glad you liked it. I you know it's been fun to hear like what people are kind of making of the book now that it's you know now that people are reading it and now that it's coming out and stuff, so it's like it's cool to get you know your feedback, other people's feedback on it now that we're here, and oh it's nerve-wracking for me but it's been fun.
Yeah. Um Speaking of just evolutions, I feel like even what people like in influencers and influencing has gone through an evolution since I've been online. Like it used to be, I for this episode watched Ingrid Goes West for the first time, which
Nice.
not a horror movie, but
Yeah.
a dark
Dark
comedy. And
comedy that has some uncomfortable bits though, so
yeah, but the Elizabeth Olsen style of influencer, like heavy filter, taking a picture of like my very curated plate,
Mhm.
tagging this like it restaurant in LA, like that's not the vibe
It's
anymore.
done. Yeah.
No, we don't do the heavily filtered. People want they say they want authenticity, but it's still like the performance of authenticity. Like I'm holding my phone at a lower angle. I don't care if you can see my double chin. That's how
Right.
authentic I am.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that's a good way of describing it. I do wonder if there isn't, like, a real craving for authenticity on some
Yeah.
level, but, to your point, like, we're still, like, superficial that we don't want that much authenticity, or, maybe it's more that we're not willing to give it. I don't know, I haven't thought about that, but, it is interesting that, and I think going back to what we were talking about at the very beginning with people being burnt out, I do think some of that comes from the heavily curated performative aspect
Yeah.
of social media. And so I do wonder if, like I said, like if we aren't on some level, like if I'm going to be on here and following people and quote connecting with people, I wonder if I, if my desire isn't more serious than that. Like if I really do want some level of like an authentic take or an authentic post or just a snapshot of somebody's life or whatever. Um, but at that point, like we ourselves, like if we're giving that, like we are still making it performative.
Yeah.
Like to your point, like we're not gonna like let our hair all the way down. We're too scared to do that. I would be. I don't want to do that. But I don't know. It's interesting, but you're right. Like it has changed, and it will, I think, continue to evolve. And I think we are in that authentic, in quotes, we are in that authentic period right now, whatever that really means.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen even younger people talk online about, influencers they followed because they were authentic. They would make videos just talking about their day at their normal job, eating takeout, looking at the camera.
Yeah.
And then as those videos blew up and they became more successful, they quit their job and moved to LA and all of a sudden became unrelatable and lost the thing that made them.
Sellouts. Oh,
Yeah.
tale as old as time.
It's
Yeah,
like,
that's funny. I mean, yeah. I mean that's the double edged sword of it. Is like, oh, they're part of the machine, and I don't. That's not interesting anymore.
yeah.
It's funny,
But I mean, yeah, influencers did not exist at the beginning of social media. That was not a job you could do. You could not quit your job and move to LA and professionally
right?
be cool.
The creepy thing for me is hearing like young people you want to like that's what they want to do,
Yeah.
and it's like yeah, it's fine. I mean, look, go shoot your shot, do whatever, do whatever makes you happy. But it's like you got to understand, like that's that's as tough as anything to make it. And I don't know, that's kind of that's in feeders a little bit where kind of Kylie kind of just isn't she's in school, but she's not
Yeah.
thinking that school is just such a marginal aspect of the story because it's such a marginal aspect of her life and her desires and urges and things.
Yeah.
So but it's whenever I hear either my kids or somebody else's kids say, I want to be an influencer or it's just like,
A
oh
YouTuber. That's
yeah,
another one.
yeah,
No. Should we talk about some movies? I feel like there are quite a bit of movies that get into this.
there are a
Yeah.
lot. And yeah, go ahead. Let's start and we can kind of
Um
segue and
yeah.
you know,
I mean, I really liked Unfriended. I think that was the first movie I saw that kind of utilized the movie told through computer screen.
right, the
Then you had,
screen
like,
life.
searching and yeah, Host and other ones, but, yeah, the fact that something on social media circulated and ruined a girl's life, and now maybe she's out for revenge.
Unfriended is a really good one,
Yeah.
because it covers that scene really well, and it feels believable. The sequel was good too, I thought. Um, different kind of a different aspect of the web, where it's more like a 4chan kind of like the dark web, which I know that isn't actually 4chan, but but yeah, I thought they both kind of captured like aspects of like the online experience pretty well, and they're funny, but then there's a moment where they kind of they drive it home, and you realize like we're not too far removed from this, and so it has a little bit of like holding a mirror up to yourself too, that I really like, and it it's that kind of the art of discomfort that sort of like you see yourself a little bit in it, and that I like that a lot. um you know, one that I thought, can you think of the first, like, what was the first in your mind, not to put you on the spot, what was like the first social media horror story or the first kind of one to really bring an aspect into it? Because I'm thinking of one that I think doesn't get the credit it maybe deserves.
Huh.
And
Yeah.
it's fine. I don't, like I said, I don't mean to like, I'm not quizzing you.
No, I'm, like, really trying to think. I was like, The Ring didn't have social media. God, maybe the oldest one I can think is, like, urban legend, like, the chat rooms,
Oh yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
goth roommate being
Yes, that's
murdered.
the best. Yeah, we are on similar dark paths. Like,
The
um,
chat rooms of it all. What was that, like, D. Snyder
oh
horror
yeah,
movie?
Strangeland. Yep, yep, yep,
Yeah.
yep. That's kind of pre-social media though. Like
Yeah,
that's
that's chat rooms.
um, the one I was thinking of, and it was because it was really interesting to see it rolled out so early, was Scream 4.
Oh, yeah.
The whole what's interesting about Scream 4, I guess, do we have to put up a spoiler tag for a movie that's like 13 years old? I don't know.
Okay, spoilers. Spoilers for Scream 4.
But yeah, the killer's motivation in that is they
Yeah.
want to be an influencer. And what's really funny about Scream 4 is I remember seeing it on opening night. So this was 2011, and I remember seeing it with a friend of mine on opening night at the midnight show. So it's like 2 a.m. We're like wandering out, tired, and my friend was like, "I don't know if I buy the killer's motivation in Scream 4."
Yeah,
And
not in 2011, but
it was 2011, right? And I
yeah.
was like, well, I don't know. It feels like that's kind of a thing. And he's like, like what is she trying to get out of it? Like what? And he has since come around and said, "Geez, I was way off on that. That was friggin' dead on,"
Yeah.
And because she has a really great line, and I don't remember it exactly, but she says like, "I don't need friends, I need fans," or something like that. And yeah, and it was really kind of really ahead of the curve when you think about it. So Kevin Williamson had really tapped into it and saw kind of what was coming before any of us did, in terms of
Mhm.
here's somebody that wants to kind of create a string of killings and then fake her survival to become famous so she can, and they were posting it all on social media to be the it girl. And I thought that was a really kind of thing. Looking back on it now, it's like that's a really great kind of commentary on where we ended up going, before we
Yeah.
knew we were going there.
That is crazy. Prescient, Kevin Williamson.
Yeah, yeah, he's right on it.
I did watch that, Shudder original Influencer.
Yeah, I watched that. So what did
I thought it was kind of fun. It's kind of like a talented Mr. Ripley
yeah,
type of deal for the modern age.
yeah.
Maybe that's a spoiler, I don't know. No, I feel like it's kind of in the trailer.
No, yeah, I think it's fair. I think it's exactly kind of what the trailer tells you it's going to be, so I don't think you're spoiling anything. And I think it's an aspect of that culture that I think is ripe for exploration. So I think it was cool. Like I just watched it a couple weeks ago, so it was like I like that one. The one that I know you said you hadn't watched was Spree.
Yeah, and you
which
like that one.
I always recommend it. It's like it's Steve from Stranger Things, who just is this, you know, he decides he's going to go viral one way or another, and the only way to do it is to go on a killing spree. And it's what's really good about Spree in a way is like it dials into he's live streaming his crime, all of his crimes basically. And when you're watching the movie, there's like a constant feed of like the people reacting to what he's doing.
Yeah.
And when you watch the movie, like you almost want to watch it a second time to read all the comments because whenever you like I would read the comments, they're gold. And I'm like, so somebody like literally would go through and write all these comments and they're really funny, darkly funny most of the time. And then in a way that makes you go, it's awful that I know that it's dead on. Like that, like because we've all been, you know, subject to so much of that stuff that it's like you just kind of know. You're like, yeah, I've seen people post that stuff. I've seen people post those responses, which is kind of awful. Like it's that's one of the things that kind of freaked me out and why I wrote Feeders was like I hated how desensitized we
Yes.
maybe not you and I personally, but how desensitized we collectively have become to like every awful thing. You know, you somebody will post something and it's like somebody having just an awful moment, a breakdown, you know, a mistake, whatever it is. And we no longer afford any type of grace. It's just harshly like dismissed, judged, laughed at, ridiculed, out of here, on to the next thing. And it like that's it bothers me in a lot of ways, but also like when you're watching something like Spree, which is kind of amped up to a really like ridiculous degree and it's funny, you kind of just laugh at it because it is fun, it is dialing into a truism that you're aware is a truism, and it is funny, but it doesn't make it any less like upsetting too at the same time.
Yeah. There is like a absolute desensitization. Wow. De Is that what it is? Desensitization? Desensitization?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. It was
Also,
there. I was reaching for it.
yeah,
um,
it is. It sucks. It's like, you know, you know, it's like, and I was thinking earlier of like all the kind of earlier iterations of this crap that now you can just see on Twitter or wherever you could see these gore videos or whatever. You used to have to go looking a little bit more, and now it's just sort of like it's right there. So that makes it worse too. That it's like, you know, you're just you could be you're sitting in the dentist office scrolling and then you're like you know, and it's like you're not on, you know, best gore, you're on like Twitter or X, which is it's a sewer now, but like I still am there out of habit sometimes. Like I still pull it up and I'll like scroll, and then I'll have to like my kids are around or whatever and I'll have to like X out, and then I'm like that's what I get, that's it serves me right. But you know, it's that's a habit I'm hoping to break at some point because it's just so freaking negative, you know, that
yeah.
it's just like it's not good for anybody's mental acuity to be there, but it's a habit, unfortunately.
Yeah, just like the absolute lack of empathy that has come from this, I think collectively, especially in younger people. Um,
Yeah,
I remember when I watched Assassination Nation, which is not like a social media heavy
but
film.
it
It
does.
has that aspect. It
Yeah,
does have that aspect. Um, but spoilers for it. I have been haunted by the ending since I have seen it, and it has unfortunately become more prescient every day, where it is like the little brother who was behind everything, just a disaffected, bored teenage boy who did it
that-
for the lulz,
that's right.
ruined
Yep,
all these people's lives, like several people died,
yep,
and to the end does not care. Did it
yeah,
for the lulz.
yep. Did it for the lulls. Isn't that under there wasn't there a movie that used that, like did it for the lulls? Like I think was it I could be wrong. There was something called like I think it's Smiley. It's like the cover is like a smiley. It's like a slash. It was like a slasher social media.
I'm gonna Google did it for the lulz
Yeah,
movie.
So the
Smiley, yeah, 2012, about an
2012.
urban legend about a serial killer with a smiley face who can be summoned through the internet by typing the phrase 3 times.
Yes, there it is. There it is. Pulled that one right out of my brain. I haven't thought about that movie in like
Ooh, we just
you,
since
but that was the
2012.
phrase, and I was like, wait a minute. Um, yeah, so the
One
messaging has been around forever. You know,
yeah,
it's a thing, and it's hopefully we can just like a book like Feeders and other stories. Like hopefully you just find an interesting element that hasn't necessarily been tackled yet. And I think for me it was like really making the algorithm a villain. Because that to me I hadn't seen, and I'm sure your listeners will say, "Oh no, no, it was already done, smart guy." But I hadn't seen the algorithm as a monster because I was like, that's what we don't understand. Well, not again, not you and I, but the royal we, like, we don't
yeah,
understand that like we are being victimized by the algorithm. The algorithm is like, I'm going to show you the worst stuff that is going to either keep you happy, sad, whatever, but scrolling. And you're going to continue to scroll and stay addicted and stay here because that's really what we want, is just you staying here for as much of the day as you're willing to do it. And that's a really sort of grim but sad reality of social media too, that we are all kind of at the mercy of the algorithm. And the
yeah,
algorithm kind of knows us, and it knows how to keep us plugged in to some degree or another.
yeah. Yeah, 'cause I was thinking of even, like, the movies where it's about someone who wants to make it as an influencer or a live streamer or a YouTuber or whatever. There's always, like, "This person is my nemesis. I just need to kick it up a notch to, like, knock that person down a few views. Like, I just need to do this thing," and it's not about, like, truly the algorithm being ridiculous.
Right.
Um, but I think one of my favorites in this subgenre is tragedy girls.
Oh yeah, yep. I saw that one when it first came out, and
Yeah,
it's another one that really kind of tapped into the cynicism of social media. The idea of like, how can I benefit from this, whatever this is, like I
yeah,
can there's a way forward here for me to do this. And that's that cynicism. Again, it's not authenticity. It's like you're doing this to build yourself up. You're and you're seeing selfish angle in that, whatever. And it so that was another angle of it that I liked. Was like, oh, that's true. That's what we are doing on social media. Whether we know it or not. There is an aspect to that.
yeah, and I feel like that was kind of at the maybe end of the beginning of the end of the peak of the true crime culture bubble that
Yeah,
we were in. Yes, even getting back to, like, the performance versus authenticity because they are in case I didn't describe the movie, it's these high school girls that run a true crime YouTube channel where they
yeah,
make, videos about true crime cases. And you kind of learn throughout the movie that they are sociopaths. They do not feel empathy. They do not care about these cases. And so just the performative empathy of it all of like, "Ah, we're taking a moment. We are being so sad and
yeah.
holding space for this right now." At the start of the movie, they kidnap a serial
Sure,
killer
yeah,
that's on the loose and then commit crimes to then pin them on him as a fall man, but then the first few get written off as accidents, so
yeah.
nobody gets credit and they get so annoyed.
It's a funny aspect. It's a funny idea, and that way, yeah, that was almost like 10 years ago, I think, at this
Oh my
point.
god.
So that's kind of like, it's crazy how long we've been kind of grappling with this. And it's the one of the I had another interview previously where somebody asked me like, where do we go from here? And I was like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not a good predictor, but it's like we're definitely. I kind of shudder to think in some ways, like where, because if you think about, as you and I have talked about, how much things have changed. It's gonna change again, and I don't know. I don't know where it ends up, but I do kind of feel like, I don't know. I think we've reached peak. Like I don't know that there's any more. Like it used to be, you were on Twitter, you were on Instagram, but now like everybody's kind of spread out over their own little pet social medias, and what's weird about that is things feel like decentralized now.
Yeah.
Like
I
I
feel like
almost
everyone used to be on Twitter,
yeah,
like, a few years ago, that was the place to be as, like, a horror reader, like, all the authors were there, all the publishers were there, everyone was on Twitter.
right. And
That's
now
where
I
things
don't
were
know, like
happening.
now I don't know where anybody is. Like I have guys like, I used to like there's authors I used to kind of like, like Stephen Graham Jones is a good example. Like I used to chat with him pretty regularly on Twitter. We because we're both slasher movie nerds, and so we would
Mhm.
always it would always be like we'd be interacting and stuff. And um, I I don't know where he is now. So I'm like, oh, I kind of miss like posting about some shitty slasher movie from 1982, and like it would always get a like from Stephen Graham Jones, and I'm like, I miss that.
He's on Blue Sky.
Is that where he is?
Yeah, he's pretty active there.
That
I know, like, add
if
another one, you just gotta keep at
well, that's
it.
the thing is it's like I want less, not more.
I
If anything
know.
was gonna get me there though, it would be that. But I'm actually, as an aside, just because I'm reading his new book right now, and oh, it's good. The Buffalo Hunter is like I'm just like every time I read him, I'm like this guy, man. He right now is like there's no one better right now in my opinion. He is just good.
Oh my
Writes
gosh.
writes like nobody else.
No. Well, I remember even last year, he had 2 books come out in the same year, and they were both, like, five-star
They were
reads,
both
and
awesome. I
I'm like,
mean,
"In the same year? In the
yeah,
same year?
I know.
Who are you?"
Yeah. He's great because he's been grinding forever,
Yeah.
and so I love that for him because I remember reading like The Last Final Girl back. Geez, I think I had one book out. This is probably like back in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. I remember reading that book and being like, "Oh, this is awesome. This guy's great." And I loved like watching him just put out book after book, and finally, boom, it's a great aspiration because it's like this is a guy that is as good as anybody, and it's like, and finally it took off, and he's getting his due finally, and it's
Yeah.
well deserved and completely off topic, but just a just as an aside.
Did you have any more movies, or should we get into some books?
There are other movies. Let's I don't know. Well, we could can I circle back if they pop into my head?
Yeah, you can definitely just
Okay. Yeah, let's chat books because like I was telling you at the beginning of this, I want to hear a little bit about some of these books because I've been on a blackout in terms of horror social media books
yeah.
for obvious reasons. And as I've been kind of doing press for feeders, I'm hearing about books that like I didn't even like. Obviously, there's been some that have come out over the last couple of years, but there's some that have like just come out like last month or whatever, and I'm like, oh, interesting. So, um, I definitely want to ask you about a couple and ask your opinions about a couple others. So,
Okay. Sure. I can start off with a book I read a few weeks ago called We Had to Remove This Post by Hannah Bervowitz, and this was translated from Dutch by Emma Ralt.
oh, it's a
And
Dutch book.
this is about a girl named Kaylee who works at a social media site named Hexa, and she's a content moderator. So her job is described in this very droll way. She just kind of goes to this very plain looking building, sits at a desk, and looks at images all day long and looks at any upsetting or flagged material and has to categorize them correctly. And it's a short book, it's a novella, but it is just about how much that job gets into her life where like she thinks about everything and like this is flag 1 for this, but it doesn't do this. So therefore, okay, this one could be here, but it doesn't do this, this, or this. So fine. And just about the way that she starts taking in the world through this system and the way that the job starts to mess with all the employees there. It's kind of like how she's relating to her coworkers and how this starts to affect them and their kind of just their sense of right and wrong.
This sounds really unsettling because
Yes.
it you realize that there are jobs like
Mhm.
that, and you it just cannot be good for
No, for a
your
person to
psyche.
take that in, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that's a genuinely and also, like, that's one I will absolutely seek out soon because even just the idea of, like, this sitting in, like, a droll, like, white office building, like, it just gives me, like, oh, like, watching the worst of humanity. There's something really nightmarish about that, that
Yeah, unsettling is a good word for it. I know a lot of people are gonna say it's not horror, and it's not, like, flatly there. It's one of those kind of vibey, quiet,
yeah,
ambiguous
hey, that's still
books,
horrible, yeah.
so I know that's good for some people, and some people are listening to this like, "Okay, not for me." And that's what
Yeah,
the podcast is for you to listen and be like, "Oh, I'll check that out," or, "No, that one's not for me."
yeah.
Um, but there was, like, a scene where she's describing a live stream that she's watching, and she's saying like, "Oh, well, the person has to hurt themselves, and there's, like, certain procedures, and they have to watch the comments to see if, like, anyone in the comments says they're contacting the authorities, like, before they do anything." Like, there's such a weird procedure for, like, everything in place, and it's just like, ugh, so weird to think about, and
Yeah, and that's the reality of it, which is awful. These people sit
yeah.
around and come up with policies on if somebody does this, then and this is always the worst in human behavior. Yeah, it's bleak.
So that is "We Had to Remove This Post" by Hannah Bervowitz.
Even like the droll title is in a way just makes me go, oh, like in a good way. Like it
Yeah,
just, you know,
it's crazy. One I read for summer scares was called #MurderTrending by Gretchen McNeil.
that one I hadn't heard of, which is interesting.
It was very fun. I don't think I'd heard of it either until it was a summer scares pick, but it's a world, where certain criminals are sent to a place, like an island, that is essentially like a suburban community called Alcatraz 2.0,
Yeah.
where it is just constantly live streamed, and it's very wacky. It is not realistic. But, there's, like, certain murderous characters that they will send in to, like, deal with these criminals. Like, you could be there just kinda living your life, doing your assigned job in this, like, prison city, and then you'll wake up, strapped to a table with, like, someone in a Cinderella mask holding an axe over you,
Oh,
and this is, like, being live streamed. Um and so we are following a teenage protagonist who wakes up on this island, and she was convicted for the murder of her sister. But as you're following her, she's like, I didn't do it. I had a sham trial. I am not supposed to be here. And she is on this quest to be proven innocent. And so she has to connect with the other inmates on the island and see if they can, like, work together in any way to stay alive. And when she gets on the island, she ends up beating and killing kind of the first, like, killer that was attached to her. So now she's become a fan favorite,
oh,
like, in
cool.
the community.
Yeah, yeah,
So now
yeah.
people are, like, kind of rooting for her, so they have to, like, throw more stuff at her to, like, knock her down a peg. Like, it's really interesting because it has that kind of, like, live stream reality TV, like,
Yeah.
narrative angle to it as well.
That sounds. There was a movie. It's a low budget movie, and it was. I mean, it was called Slashers. Did you ever hear of that one?
No.
It's similar premise in that it's kind of like it's kind of like a B movie version of The Running Man, where you have these people that get dropped into like this warehouse, and it's all live streamed. There's a game show host and everything, and they are pursued by slashers, but these guys with masks on, and there's like a I forget what there's like one that's maybe a clown and one that's this and that, and they're each one has like different strengths and weaknesses and the fan favorites, and you've got to try and survive, um and there's like they like each one does like they do car they like they're encouraged to do certain kind of like style kills, that kind of stuff, and pretty fun movie. It's a very obscure. It's maybe from like the early 2000s, and I think like Fangoria actually put it out originally way back
Oh,
when.
interesting.
But it's a good fun movie, and it's worth seeking out. And Slashers, I think, has the dollar sign in the S, I
Oh,
think.
nice.
But it sounds similar to that.
Yeah,
But it sounds like there's more going on in this book.
yeah, just kind of like the having to band together, you don't know who can trust, and you're constantly like every other chapter is, like the chat during the live stream,
Mm.
like what people are
Oh,
thinking
that's
of
cool.
her. And there's also like, these people are criminals, so they don't actually need empathy. So, in the end, they deserve whatever you're seeing. So, like, whatever gore you're seeing is justified because these people are, quote, criminals
Yeah,
at
yeah,
the end of
yeah.
the day.
Kind of
So,
a nice satirical, biting, bit
yeah,
of commentary there too. That's cool. I like that. That also sounds like something I would really enjoy.
it was a fun read.
Well, this is partially why I was like, oh, cool. I'll just get some good book recs from Stephanie, and this is great because, like, I honestly like that's two for two so far. Have you
Good.
read? There was one, and this is just my own curiosity, like, because I kind of wanted to read this one too. There was one that just came out, and I think it's called Wrecked, Rekt.
I started it. I was
Okay,
planning on reading it for this episode, and I got the audiobook, and I am, like, a few chapters into it, so, like, nothing has happened yet, and I was like, "Oh, I wanna be able to talk about it." So, no, I didn't get
okay,
far enough into it, but
yeah.
I'm reading it right now.
I'll look for your thoughts later because I definitely am like, I was like reading that and I was like, that sounds cool. Like, I think I
Yeah.
would, definitely would like that.
Yeah, it sounds really good. I know, Anna Rose Reads, did a podcast episode with
Oh,
the
cool, cool.
author talking about it. So that is, yeah, hashtag murder trending by Gretchen McNeil. And I think it's part of a series kind of like as they interact with the greater system, like the greater higher ups that are running the like prison live stream and like the powers that be
Oh, okay.
as the like group goes on. One that's not out yet, but that I enjoyed and is not social media centric, but I think there's enough parts of it is, Come Knocking by Mike Bakoven.
I've heard it.
Did you ever
I've heard of this one and I'm looking forward to it.
did you
This
read
is like the,
Fantastic Land by him?
I have not, no.
Okay.
But this is the one where there's like a murder, right? And like it's like a kind of like a Rashomon, like what happened? Is that like
Yeah, kind of. It's told in like this he did this in Fantastic Land where it's like an event, and so the author is like a journalist or something like looking into it, and so each chapter is, like an interview with
okay,
someone
yeah,
who
yeah,
was a
yeah, yeah.
part of it in some way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is about a interactive theater performance called Come Knocking, which was like big in LA, in New York, and it would take place in this like five-story building. And when you come in, you have to wear a mask. And I mean, I said it's immersive theater, it's interactive theater. There's like pyrotechnics, there's people, um, there's like actors suspended from the ceiling. It's supposed to be very like Dante's Inferno. It's supposed to like, it's a piece that's supposed to make you like reflect on mortality. Like, the
Right.
actors interact with you. It's supposed to be kind of uncomfortable.
Right, right, right.
And so it's very divisive. Like some people get it and they're like, wow, like it really made me think about life. And other people think it's pretentious bullshit. Um,
That's
so
good. Division is good. I like, as I'm kind of bracing for what I expect to be a fully divisive response to my own book, like I kind of like knowing that there are divisive books out there because it's just sort of like, I mean, I mean, that's variety. That's what keeps things
yeah.
interesting.
And it's interesting to see that as the narrator is interviewing different people because he's interviewing people who have attended, people who were involved, like, the security guards, the actors, the dancers, the bartender, the um and interviewing people who went and hated it and
Yeah,
people
yeah.
who went and loved it. Like the first guy he interviews is a moderator for the Reddit group. He's like, "Yeah, I went 7 times." And he
I
was
laugh.
talking about he's like, "I went 7 times, like, some people are just not gonna get it, and that's fine." And, he talks about how, so there was I didn't even get to the point. There was a tragedy that happened,
Okay.
and
Okay.
so you're kind of looking everyone up to a certain point is kind of hinting at, like, these things were in place that, kind of snowballed to what eventually happened.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So the Reddit moderator's talking about, like, the day after it happened. He's like, "We were on the front page of Reddit for a week," and he's like, "That doesn't happen for anything."
I
Like,
don't even does that
it
even
was
happen anymore? Like, does Reddit
I
even
don't
have yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know. But yeah, talking about the people that didn't get it and felt frustrated by that, um, or, just regular run-of-the-mill haters who, like, kind of eventually started their own group online, which eventually became this Discord group, and how that kind of eventually grew into, like, a thing that kind of grew out of control,
Right, right.
and, which then set the pieces for, like, this kind of planned attack tragedy that went down. And, yeah, really getting into how desensitized people were, and I mean, in, like, the at the very end that the author as, like, narrator talking about how oblique it was to do all these interviews and how, like, it feels like the masks are off in
Right.
society. I was like, yeah.
That's true. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a creepy, unfortunate reality, and that's kinda true.
So
Um,
I really liked that.
okay,
Um,
cool. That's another good rec.
did you read, Influencer by Adam Caesar?
I absolutely have not because I was like, I when I was writing feeders and I knew he was like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna do uh, my own thing," and I was like, "Okay, I don't want to know. Don't tell me about it because I didn't want to be influenced, you know." But
Yeah.
I'm gonna look at it now because Adam's obviously a friend of mine and stuff, so it's like but I just was like, I am taking keeping a wide berth until feeders is out of my life, and then, although I know his was more of like a because he was always like, it's not like yours. It's a cult thing, and it's this and it's that. And I was like, oh, I'm not. I don't think you stole my idea. I'm just saying, like, it's like when
Yeah.
you're playing in the same lane, it's like you just don't kind of want to take in stuff that you know might, you know, you just kind of want to keep that stuff at an arm's length until yours is done and out the door, and then it's different.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to it now because it's feeders is it's finally here, and I'm like, cool. Now I can go back and check stuff out.
Yeah, what was interesting about that is that the main, like, influencer guy is, like, an anonymous, like, poetry YouTuber, like, he comes up and, like, reads poems, but he's, like, anonymous.
Okay.
Um, and he moves to this new school, and from the start, he is not a good person. And there's, a girl who kind of immediately catches on to what he is and outs him. And so he is like, "I need to ruin your life. Like, I am zeroing in on you.
Oh,
I
that's
need to get
cool.
rid of you." But she's onto him, and she just kind of sees right through his veneer.
Yeah, yeah.
And so he immediately does something to then, like, socially ruin her life, and then it's her kind of trying to convince her friends that they shouldn't trust this guy
I
for
will like that
reasons.
because there's a good. I like that aspect of it too, and that's what freaks me out is like going back to even Assassination Nation. It's just that like how flip it is with like I will ruin your life. It's like okay, this is where we are now, huh?
One I read a few years ago was called Monsters We Have Made by Lindsay Stark, which was, I think, inspired by the Slender Man murders.
Okay, yeah.
So it is about this teenage babysitter who was murdered by the young girls she was babysitting because they wanted to make an offering to the king man.
Yeah, that's that terrible story. Yeah, that story disturbed the hell out of me back in the day. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't that long ago, but
It's wild to think about, but yeah, so it's like years later and the mom of one of these girls like hears from them and is kind of brought into this web again, and she's, like, convinced that is the king man real?
yeah,
Like, what's the story behind that? So, just kind of like a look into that, but that was such an unsettling case.
it
Crazy
was.
thing.
It was, and I saw I watched the movie Slender Man.
The documentary or the fictional
No, it was a
movie?
fictional movie, and it was
I'm like, because there was that, like, HBO documentary, it was called, like, Beware the Slender Man or something.
yeah, probably. That's probably an interesting. I didn't watch that. I didn't know that actually, or I forgot, but that actually probably is worth checking out. It's probably pretty interesting.
Yeah, because yeah, is that social media, like creepypasta, Reddit stuff? Hmm.
Is that, like, still kind of a thing? I feel like that's kinda had its moment. And maybe I'm just old, I don't know. Like, is
I
it
don't know if the children are still reading
I
creepypastas or,
wonder.
like, are into Siren Head and Slender Man and
It's
those
'cause
kinds of
I
things.
can only speak to, like, my kids. I remember, like, a couple years ago, like, my oldest was, like, talking about Siren Head. Um But now I don't, I'm sure one of your listeners will correct me if I'm way off base here, but they like video game creepy. So like, of course, Five Nights at Freddy's, and there's other ones like Poppy Playtime, and then there's the new a one that I don't know if it's new, but my son loves this. It's called Garden of Ban, and they're all kind of the same. They're all kind of like these. It's like creepy mascots and these like kind of like almost
Skibbity toilet.
yeah, yeah. It's these creepy things in like kind of like, liminal spaces almost like the
Yeah.
back edit
Yeah.
but it's interesting because a lot of them I hear him talk about it with his friends and stuff. They're all kind of into that. And it's an interesting kind of generational thing. And so I don't know like where creepypasta ends and that begins. I don't know if kind of creepypasta was more of like a millennial thing and now like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I think, the Backrooms, I feel like, is a bridge between that because that still was kind of under the
Yeah,
Reddit, like, creepy picture. We created a weird lore
yeah,
around it.
yeah. And I know like Reddit stuff is still like I there was like somebody on a had written like semi recently like, a creepy Reddit story that was sold to Hollywood for like a lot of money. Like
Mhm.
so I know that stuff is still like
Yeah, We Used to Live Here, the book that just came out last year was a Reddit story,
oh was that?
and it's getting a movie
Yeah,
deal.
yeah, yeah. I didn't know that was a Reddit story. What's funny is after feeders, I have kind of I sort of started to think about other genres, and so like the book I wrote after feeders, which I haven't sold yet, hasn't gone out on sub or anything yet, but it's like it's not even horror because I was like I need a break.
Yeah.
I kind of depressed myself with it, although I think feeders is funny. I was sort of just like all the darkness of that. I was like I want to write something like upbeat and kind of fun, and so I kind of switched gears. I'll go back to horror at some point, but I haven't really had my finger on the pulse as much because of that. So it's been kind of interesting to kind of like dip out, and now I'm kind of looking at it all again. But it was definitely a break for a few years, which was kind of never done that before, so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah. I feel out of the loop. Oh,
Yeah.
it just reminded me, I remember when I was talking to Grady Hendrix about We Sold Our Souls,
Mhm.
which is, a lot with the, like, conspiracy
Yes.
groups and online conspiracy theories, and he talked about how researching that put him in a dark place, just having to interact with that all the time.
Yep.
And then I just spoke to Nat Cassidy, who said, like, the next novel he's working on is kind of like young people, internet, and AI, which is also putting him in like a dark headspace.
That's
If
exactly
you write a social media dark side of society novel, you're gonna be in a not great headspace.
inevitably you have to go to a dark place, and it does take its toll, and so that's kind of for me. I've been writing horror for such a long time that I kind of was like I just kind of feel like I want to do something a little happier, especially in these
Yeah.
I don't know these uncertain times, and I was just sort of like I just kind of want to write something that makes people go, "Oh, I had fun with that." Like I hope maybe, and so we'll see. I don't know. I don't know. It's very early in in that whole.
Mhm.
But I would love to get that out and to, especially after the darkness of feeders, have people be like, "Oh, he wrote this next." Like this, you know. So we'll see.
Be like, "Could it be the same guy?"
Well, it's still dark and violent, but it's like
Okay.
it's yeah. But it's more of like
So you're not saying you're not gonna write, like, a cozy mystery, like, girl moves to a small town and marries the local baker and solves mysteries in her
I
spare
actually
time.
love those types of stories, which is funny.
They're nice once in a while. They
Yeah,
scratch an itch.
yeah, they did. Yeah, exactly. Like, there's nothing wrong with kind of just being like, oh, no, this would be more of like it's just kind of like an action suspense thriller. kind of thing with like two
Mhm.
mismatched characters at the core of it, but an accent on just being like fun and diverting as opposed to like to me Feeders was like a kind of when I finished it and I was like this is really scathing and I felt it needed to be, but I was also like I don't consider myself like a transgressive author, even though I think Feeders does have a bit of that in it. Like it's like generally speaking, I think I want to be more of an entertainer than somebody that constantly is like upsetting the reader. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Oh, speaking of those cozy things, reminded me of Christina Henry's Good Girls Don't Die. This was so weird, and I'm gonna find it kind of weird to talk about. So,
I mean,
it's
this
kind of
is
split up
intriguing.
it's split up into 3 parts, and the first part is a woman waking up essentially in a cozy mystery.
Uh-huh.
Like, she lives in one of these small towns. She's like the town baker. Um, she has like a best friend who she always talks to. She has a daughter. She has beef with like this random old lady in town. She knows the sheriff by his first name. And then the woman she has beef with ends up dead, and she has to like solve this mystery. And then like the next section is like a woman who wakes up in a car that's headed toward a cabin in the woods
Oh,
with her
a
friends,
different woman?
a different woman. And
Okay.
she's like, "I think I've seen this film before, and I didn't like the ending."
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, and it's these women. It's hard because I'm like, how am I gonna talk about it without spoiling it?
Yeah,
But
because it's
it
a
is like,
cool hook here. Like the
yeah, but it is like these women who are fans of this genre who have made comments online of like, these protagonists are stupid, and if I was there, like, I would
so there's a
easily
meta aspect
survive this situation.
because
Yes.
well that what's cool about that because the meta aspect is like that is has become such a tried and true genre unto itself that now you can do the scream where you're taking the cliches and you're like let's incorporate them into the story. We know these cliches, we're still going to try and make it a story that works in that sense, but while acknowledging the cliches. And I kind of like that. I always am a sucker for that sort of like self-aware approach.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting. I really didn't expect the direction it went. It's kind of about, online misogyny.
Okay.
That was interesting, like an
Yeah.
interesting angle for that story. Um, but it just reminded me of that talking about cozy mysteries, and I thought it
That
fit
sounds like
within.
something I would enjoy. Yeah, I like the idea of like I also just like the idea of like because that sounds like a page turner. And
Yeah.
I just love kind of like a book for me at its best is when you're just kind of like I want to go to sleep, but I got to see where this is going next. Like that to me is
Mhm.
like that's the ultimate pleasure, with reading a book, and that sounds like that's really cool.
And there was a novella I read last year by Chloe Spencer called Mewing. Do you know
Mm.
what mewing is?
No, I actually
Like
don't.
it is like a thing you can do where you like suck in your tongue or you touch like the tongue to the top of your mouth so it like cuts this out so it like
Oh,
makes
okay.
your jaw look
Oh, I
sharper
should
in
do that.
pictures. And so people will call out like celebrities on the red carpet when they're like, like making a face so they can get that sharp jawline.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
but this is about a girl who gets invited to live at this influencer house, which is also a thing that is
Oh,
true
yeah, like
now
the
and
Hype
new,
House.
and
Yeah,
like,
it's
and
right.
I don't this is where I feel old, where I'm like, I don't understand it. So
Yeah,
they
who the
just
hell
live
would
in this
wanna live
house.
in that? Yeah,
I'm like, who is watching this? Who is watching just these random people make like videos
right.
dancing? Like, what is the appeal of that? I don't get it. I am old. Like, I don't um, but yeah, she gets invited to live in this influencer house, and she doesn't have money. It's one of those things. It seems like a deal that is a little too good to be true. Like, you get to live in this beautiful mansion in LA with these other successful people and have access to this beautiful property and all this trendy food. But there are some rules you have to follow, and there are consequences for not following those rules.
Insidious.
Mm. Yeah.
Nice.
Is it worth it to be hot girl LA influencer, you know?
That's the eternal question, and that's a question that gets asked all the time, you know?
So that is what I had book-wise
That's good. Those are good recs for
for
me. I'm seeking at least 3 of those out.
but a question I like to ask all my guests is for chilling obsession, just something in horror that you've been enjoying lately. Can be movie, show, book, podcast.
In horror, I have been slowly but surely rewatching the, Nightmare on Elm Street series, the
Nice.
short-lived television show, Freddy's Nightmare.
No, I have not watched this. Okay, tell me all about it. I've seen this on Tubi and I've been curious.
It's weird because I watched a lot of it back when I was a kid, when
Mhm.
it came out, and you used to have to, like, stay up till, like, 10 o'clock at night to see it, and, it was really not made for a lot of money, um so it's that, but it has Robert Englund.
Yeah.
They had Robert Englund in it, so
Okay.
it's still kinda like he's
Okay.
very little, like, he pops up. There's a couple episodes that are actually, like, where Freddy is the threat, but a lot of times, most of the time, it's just Freddy as the Crypt Keeper. He introduces the show, he pops up, maybe makes a pun, and then he, does, like, an outro kinda thing. Um, it's weird that I think it plays better now than it did back then. And I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just kind of if it's like a side effect of it being a low budget thing, but it has a weird dreamy, the episodes are weird and dreamy. Um, and it almost like kind of feels like if you were laying in bed at like 2 a.m., like half awake watching something, and you're like, am I seeing this? Is this really
Yeah.
so it's like it's odd, like, I don't you can't binge it because I think after 1, you've had enough for a little bit, but it's weirdly compelling, and then there's, like, on top of that, like, there's all, like, a who's who of, "Oh, that like, Lori Petty's in this episode," or, "There's Brad Pitt." And so it's, like,
Oh,
weird, like, the amount of people that kinda run through it, on screen, and even, like, if you're, like, a horror nerd and you're, like, who's who of who was making horror stuff in the '80s, like, a lot of people behind the scenes too. So it's an interesting watch, and I think it's actually better now than it was at the time, because I think at the time everybody was like, yeah, they make a movie every year. We all know Freddy, like, this is more of that. Um, but now, I don't know, is something really kind of cool about going back to it and kind of just getting into the vibe of, like, the sleepy,
yeah.
surreal kind of like anthology series that is told to you by Freddy Krueger. So I think it's weird, but I really kind of like it, and I wasn't expecting. I was kind of like, I'm going to torture myself with this, but it's good. Like, I actually recommend it. I hope it gets a legitimate release one day because I think it kind of deserves it.
I've been curious about it, so I think I'm gonna try it out and watch it. I
Yeah,
do love the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Uh,
it won't be the greatest thing you've ever seen, but it is worth
yeah.
watching.
No, my son finds it so funny that there was, like, the Freddy phone number you could call and
Yeah.
talk to.
Yeah, it was another time, man. It was a distant era.
But the second question I like to ask all my guests is for their final girl song. You're
Oh,
covered in blood, last one standing in a horror movie. What
and
is your song?
I'm gonna stay on theme with feeders, and I'm gonna play the card Katy Perry, "Part of Me,"
Ooh,
which
I
is
love Part of Me.
it's a good song, dude, and I think, like, it's about perseverance. It could actually play at the end of a slasher movie, and
Yeah.
if they make a movie on feeders, I would like it to play at the end of that.
Yeah, Katy Perry's gotta okay it.
Yes, yes,
You're like
yes.
her presence in the movie. Just
Well,
be
that's the thing is, like, it's like I don't I like, on the off chance that it ever gets onto her radar, it's like I don't want her to think I was making fun of her because it's done with love.
I don't think it comes across that way.
Okay,
I
well, that's
mean,
good.
you're in Kylie's POV and she's a genuine fan. All right, Part of Me by Katy Perry. I am adding it to the playlist. Well,
Nice.
thank you so much for coming on here and talking social media horror.
I appreciate you, Stephanie. This was first of all, it was really fun to just kinda chat through movies and books and get some good
Yeah.
recommendations, But it's also just thank you for having me, letting me come on and be part of this. That is sincerely appreciated.
Sure. Well, thank you again. And everyone, check out Feeders.
Yes, please check it out.
Books in the Freezer is a bi weekly podcast. We post episodes every other Tuesday. You can find us on Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, and TikTok at Books in the Freezer. Or you can send us an email at booksinthefreezer@gmail.com. You can check out show notes for this episode and all previous episodes at booksinthefreezer.com. If you would like to support the podcast, there are a few ways to do that. One of those ways is to become a Patreon supporter. There are a lot of fun things going on Patreon. You get to listen to episodes a few days before they come out. And at the Malevolent Spirit level, you have access to the brand new podcast series, The House at the End of Fear Street, where I and a guest talk about each Fear Street book. It has been so fun. I think we're up to number 7 now. You don't want to miss out. So check that out at patreon.com/booksinthefreezer. If you're looking for a way to show your support that does not involve spending money, there are also a few ways to do that. And one of those is to just post about us on social media, spread the word about the show, or leave a review on a site like Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So thank you to all of you who have taken the time to do that. I have been your host, Stephanie Gagne. Thank you for listening, and see you next time on Books in the Freezer.